Hello everyone, welcome to episode 7 of Play Like a Watt Pro. And today I am drunk and I'm going to teach you how to play Paris East Spawn in mediums and in some heavy tanks. Not in heavily armored heavy tanks, but in heavy tanks that have good guns and tanks that don't heavily rely on their armor. So you could use an S-Conk to do this strategy, or a Cron to do this strategy. I wouldn't recommend it in something like a 705A or an E100 though, or even a 2790. But this position that I'm going to show you throughout a few replays, I'm going to show you how to play it and what its advantages are, and the different angles that you can utilize using this position, and basically just how to play this side of the map with a lightly armored tank. I have to warn you that I'm probably going to go pretty in-depth in these replays, so there will probably be a lot of pausing, and the replays might not be the most optimal. Like, one of the replays I only do like 3,000 damage in a tier 10 tank, but I still think the replay has some stuff that I can offer you. Sometimes the worst replays or your worst results are the battles that you learn from the most, so we're going to be going over one of those replays as well. In total, we're going to go over 3 replays. But first, let's start off with the best replay. So I'm playing the Leopard 1. I'm in tier 9 matchmaking. There's only 1 artillery, and there's a juicy E100. They have a lot of heavy tanks, so this is actually really good matchmaking. And you might be thinking, a Leopard on Paris, what options do you really have? This is a city map. A lot of people would opt to go north or to sit here and snipe the crosses. Well, first of all, we don't have a light tank to spot the crosses, so sitting here would be completely useless. And second of all, going to the north side of this map in basically any tank at all, maybe even light tanks, it's kind of just unoptimal. I'm not saying you can't have bad games by going north on this map, but the main problem with the north is you completely rely on enemy tanks making mistakes in order to get your damage. You can't trade HP. Like, how are you going to trade HP in an open field? All you can do is try to blind shot the enemy sniper locations. And you can't really force any engagements. So if, for example, you're losing the south flank really hard, how are you going to get damage if you're playing the north? Well, really, at that point, your only option is to like go back here and get off like 2,500 damage as they push through this flank. And that's not really what you want to be doing if you're trying to have very high average damage in World of Tanks. So, in my opinion, in almost every tank, including mediums, heavies, even tank destroyers, it's best to go to the south flank and try to brawl it out and try to get out as much damage as you can. Sometimes, like if you're in a tank destroyer and you have a platoon mate in a light tank, you can kind of snipe across here and get some damage, snipe here and get some damage. But besides that, it's just best to go to the south flank on this map. So first thing is, as you cross this gap, if you have a light tank going very aggressive here, sometimes enemy tanks will be spotted here. Now, on the contrary, enemy light tanks can go very aggressive and spot you crossing here, and the enemy tank destroyers will have shots. So if you're crossing very late, you just need to be aware of that. If an enemy light tank goes very aggressive and you're in something like a 705A or an E100, you can get farmed crossing here, so you need to be very careful. But in general, if you move right off of spawn, you probably aren't going to get shot crossing here. Now, it might be tempting to sit around here, sit around in this location, and getting ready to poke out here to shoot enemy tank destroyers if you have a light tank. And that's sometimes okay. Or even to sit here and get ready to poke out and shoot enemy tank destroyers if they have a light tank, or even just to shoot the light tank itself. And that's sometimes okay. But the main problem with doing that is that enemy tanks are going to go quickly, very often, and take this corner right here. And so if you dilly-dally, is it even a word? You know, it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean. If you dilly-dally over here or over here, if you try to cross over into this position, very often they're going to be sitting here and they're going to bleed you for doing that. So most oftentimes it's best just to take a blind shot over towards their TDs and just to immediately go over here so that you can farm them instead if they poke this corner. Now this is kind of the most important part of what I'm trying to teach you here, is this position here. Now notice how I knock over these trees. I don't knock over these trees, come on replay, holy shit. I don't knock over these trees this way. I don't knock them over this way. I knock them over at like a 45-degree angle here. And you'll see why that is later. I knock over both of these trees in roughly that orientation. It doesn't need to be exact or anything. But the main thing I'm trying to do here is make a sniper's nest where I can poke into these bushes, spot enemy tanks that are on this corner and that are coming down here, and then I can pull back from these bushes, and these bushes will provide enough camo that in almost any tank I can shoot and I won't be lit after I fire. So that's what I'm trying to do in this position, and this position is extremely strong on this map. It works in Leopards, even though this is a city map. I still consider this a good map for farming in general, even in something like a Leopard 1. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're in this position, if you get spotted, most enemy artilleries, unless it's something like a 261 with very bad arc, they can actually shoot you. So if you get lit, and you're in this area right here, enemy artillery can hit you. But if you ever get lit and you're afraid of getting hit by your enemy artillery, you can just come inwards towards here, or towards here, and these buildings will block enemy artillery. So keep that in mind. Now I'm gonna rewind real quick. I know this is really taking a long time to get through this replay, but I really I want to go over everything possible, so that you get every single little ounce of use out of this replay. Watch how I shoot this E50 right here. I don't know, I probably didn't do this on purpose, but it's just something interesting to note. I shoot him, and if you paid attention, his turret was around the corner of this column here when I shot him. And if you remember from my spotting video, I think it was like episode 3, your vision ports are on your cupola and on the front of your gun. If those are not exposed to the enemy tank, you will not spot them. So his vision ports were not exposed when I shot him, so I don't get lit for this. Even though I wasn't double bushing here, I wasn't 15 meters behind these bushes, behind these trees. So I get a free shot of damage and I don't even get lit, so I don't need to waste the 8 to 10 seconds, or I think it's like 10 to 11 seconds to get unlit before I have to poke this again, which is really nice. Even though I really don't think I did that on purpose. But basically from this position, let me see if I can get a better angle. You can shoot this corner right here if enemies overpeak this corner to try to get bleed on people crossing this this gap right here. Sometimes people try to get to this location, and if you get here early enough, you can shoot this cross right here. So enemies will often come here to the corner, and you can bleed them for that. Second of all, enemy tanks playing where the UDES is, they're trying to play hull down and shoot locations like right here. You can shoot them as well. And lastly, well, actually not lastly, but second to last, you can shoot this corner here if they get lit, which is not always a given. Later on, I'm going to show you a replay where there's a fourth position that you can shoot from this general area that a lot of people don't know about. So just stay tuned if you want to know about that angle. So here I sniped the UDES's Cupola. Not an easy pen, but I do manage to do it. I sniped the E100 here. And right now I'm really just looking for free damage. I'm 15 meters behind the bush. My team are spotting for me, and this is like an ideal situation. Right now, my team is pushed up very aggressively. I don't know if you can see it, but if you have knowledge of this map, you know that there's a rubble pile right here. My team is pushed all the way up, down here, up to the rubble pile. And what that is doing is forcing the enemy tanks to play back. They have to play on this corner, and they have to back up and play on top of these enemy tanks right up here. And that just puts them in a perfect position for me to farm them. And so, to be honest, this replay is not your typical replay on this map. There's a lot of free damage I get just because of how my team is playing, and this is not always the case. But that's not to say that this location is very situational. This position almost always works. You can almost always get free damage here. So right now I'm just farming the enemy tanks. I actually get lit there. I'm not sure if it was because I was just a little bit too close and I got spotted by the Conqueror, or if I went too wide and got lit by tanks. Let me see if I can zoom out from this corner. So one thing you need to watch out for when you're playing this location is if you poke too wide out here and you fire, especially if you fire, you can get spotted from this corner. If you're inside this bush and you fire when you pull back and you're behind this foliage, then you won't get lit. But if you pull out into this foliage, you won't be lit. But if you fire and there's tanks on the enemy corner here, then you will probably almost definitely get lit. And so you need to be careful about that. But here I get lucky, I only get hit in the track. And as you can see, I poke wide, too far wide, and I try to trade with the E50, but he gets the better of me and he hits me. So I know I'm still lit on the counter here, but the Visa's not paying attention to me, so I get a free shot. Now, always in the back of my mind, subconsciously almost, I am thinking they have an enemy artillery. He can hit me right now. I need to be a little bit careful. But at the same time, look at the score. We're up 3,000 HP. We are winning this game. If I need to trade HP to get my damage, so be it. If I don't get damage right now, I might not get any damage this game. I might end up just farming 1,500 more damage, which, you know, wouldn't be a terrible game. 4,800 damage is not a bad game in the Leo, in my opinion. At least I would consider that like an average game for me. At least for my standards. But this matchmaking is great. This position is great. I want to get as much as I can out of this game. So I'm gonna risk it. I'm just gonna assume that Artie is not aiming at me. I'm gonna assume he's not gonna hit me for too much damage if he does hit me at all. I go for a greedy shot there on the E50. I really should have saved my shot for the S-Conk. And now I'm not even bothering to sit behind the bushes. If I were playing it properly, I probably should be sitting behind the bushes, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter because these guys are very preoccupied with my teammates who are sitting at this hull down. So they barely even notice me, so I can kind of just get damage for free. Now right now you're gonna see never mind. I was gonna say you see the great penetration of the Leo, because I thought I would just pen his shirt, but he actually just dies to my teammate, so you actually don't see that at all. So yeah. But anyways, right now we are winning the game, like I said before. And I know that these guys are being backed off the corner by, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my teammates. So I can afford to start being aggressive and over peaking on the people who are backing up from this corner here. And this is something that happens pretty often on this map. If your team is winning this flank, oftentimes the enemies will be backing up from these kind of positions over towards here. And if you don't have shots from behind the bushes, sometimes you can just be a little bit cheeky and poke around here and even move up to this building and get free shots on them while they're distracted. And that's what I do in this situation. The E50 somehow gets a shot at me. I honestly do not know how he's able to overpoke there. He should be getting bled by my teammates, but you know, whatever. I still have 1500 HP, so I'm playing aggressive. We're up 4000 HP. I have 1500 HP. This is a great example of situational awareness. I know that I have HP to spare. We're winning this game. I can play aggressive. I can take risks, and it won't be a big deal because there will be no late game. This game will be over soon. I need to take advantage right now and get my damage right now. I can't just sit around and wait for my team to lose or the game to stagnate and then use my HP later on. I can just use my HP right now, and most likely I won't run out if I play well. So here I see that this email is a one-shot. I'm completely fine with trading 1 for 1 on this guy if it means I get to kill him, because I'm pretty sure this STI is preoccupied with my team and I'll be able to farm him after I kill the email. Unfortunately, I miss. There I go for a side turret shot. I really wish this reload replay bug was not in the game, but you know, it is, so not much I can really do about that. And now I poke wide. You notice I use a third person here to try to get a glimpse of where he's aiming, to see if he's pre-aiming me or if he's preoccupied with my teammates. There's a bush in the way, so I can't actually tell, but I risk it anyway, because again, I have HP, we're winning, I can take risks. Now, I'm paying attention to the minimap. I notice there's a M60 here over poking this corner. I'm thinking most likely he's gonna back off, but this E4, he's completely just in the open. I can pick him for free. There's nothing he can do about it. And so I go for the E4. Now where I aim here is kind of debatable. I think this is the best place to aim because I can pen him in this sort of area. I alternatively could have aimed for here, but right here will be a pen roll, and so I think this is just a smaller target. I would definitely aim here in this situation. And I think I finish him off. Yep. Now, I was gonna say that I was going to wait until I reload to peek this, but I actually don't. In general, a good tip for you, this doesn't just apply to this map, but pretty much every map. You don't want to be peeking a corner until you're actually reloaded, because if you're not reloaded, your enemies have a chance First of all, it increases your exposure time because you're just sitting there waiting to reload while the enemy is staring at you. And second of all, it gives your enemy an opportunity to see that you're aiming at them and then to back off. But in this case, the E50 isn't actually paying attention to me, so it doesn't really matter. I just get a free shot in here. I take a quick snapshot trying to get a free shot of damage there. Not sure if I should have aimed that fully or not. I don't think I should have. I think I made the correct play by just snapshotting there because I want to catch this Char Future before he runs away. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I'm always, well, not always, but I'm trying to always pay attention to who is spotted and who isn't. Right now, all of their tanks are spotted except their Arty. The Arty hasn't shot me, so I don't know exactly where he is, but it's pretty much obvious. He's somewhere in this area. So really at this point, I have nothing to fear. This guy he's alone. If anybody is supporting him, it's from this location here, and I can move up here, shoot the Char Future without exposing myself to this area, and I still have 1500 HP. I really don't have anything to lose right now. All I want to do is get as much damage as possible. And here I go for a track shot. When I was playing the Leo, I was going for combined damage because that's just usually what I play for in this game. I don't go for I would say my #1 priority is combined damage, like damage plus assistance. Basically trying to get my mark of excellence as high as possible, but my secondary mission is to get the highest average damage as possible. In this situation, I don't know if tracking was the best play for average damage, but it definitely was the best play for combined, and he had to use his repair kit for that. Now, I guess I was actually wrong. The TVP wasn't here. He was actually back here covering the Char, but it doesn't matter. Again, I have 1500 HP. I can afford to take hits, and I take a hit from the Arty. Looking at the tracer, it came from this direction. I can point my reticle towards where the Arty shell originated. And doing that, I can see he's like right here. He's somewhere in this area. I can really narrow it down a lot. And so I know that he's somewhere right here. If you don't know how to turn on this this line indicating your direction of view, you just go to General. And I'm not exactly sure where it is, but I know it's somewhere around here. Display camera direction beam right here. Just turn this on. You should have all of these on, to be honest. There are some people like November and December who are noobs and turn these off and only have them on when they press Alt. Don't be like them. Just turn all of these on, please. They're extremely useful. You can make an argument that the draw circle is just distracting. I don't think it is. I think it's very useful in some situations when you're trying to tell how far away someone is to proximity spotting you. But anyways, just keep all of these on, please. Now this is just cleanup. I'm going for as much damage as possible. Now a lot of people here would go like this. They would go, and they would just drive straight towards the enemy. I know better than that. I preload HE and I go wide because I know that I can get an angle on this guy if I go wide. And so I get an early shot. If I had gone this way directly, I would not be shooting this guy until I get around here. Excuse me. So yeah, I get a nice shot into him, and now I see this guy dies. There's no way I would get to him anyway, even if he were still alive. He's surrounded by like 3 tanks. Excuse me. So now the last tank is the Arty. What would you do in this situation? Most players, they would drive like this. Bad idea. Remember earlier when I said he is somewhere in this area? I'm thinking most likely he's somewhere along this line. He could have relocated from when he last shot me, but most likely he's somewhere along this line. The most efficient way to get a shot on this artillery right now is not to go to the corner. That will take longer. This is like the hypotenuse of a triangle. You see this triangle here? Boom, boom, boom. This is the hypotenuse, bitch. Don't take the hypotenuse, bitch. Take this route. It's shorter and you get the same angle. Sure, your shell has to travel a little bit further, so your shell will be in the air a little bit longer. But, it's just better, okay? So that's what I do. Because my teammates are very close. I'm not going to beat them to him. I have to just get in a position where I can shoot him. Now you might think here, he has 440 HP. I should load high explosives. Well, wrong. Well, debatably wrong. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. But I decided not to. Why? Because APCR has way higher shell velocity than HE. It also has a guaranteed chance to do full damage. Like sometimes you can hit his tracks or something and it will do like 200. That's very rarely against a batch at 155, 55. But I'm not taking any chances. I want my shell to get there as fast as possible. Because even if I hit him, I'm going to do around 420. He's going to have like 20 HP left. 20 over 420 is like 4%. So I'm going to be gaining like 4% extra damage if I load HE. 4%. And if I'm going for average damage, I would rather just have the extra shell velocity and the guaranteed damage than the slower shell velocity of HE just to get 4% extra damage. So I keep APCR loaded. Yes, it costs more credits, but if you want to be a damage whore, you gotta do what you gotta do. So boom. I snap him, I'm a god, and I just high roll him. So it doesn't even really fucking matter that I have APCR loaded. So anyway, look at that. 8k damage on Paris. A map that many would consider a terrible map for a Leo, but when I see Paris in Tier 9 matchmaking with only one arty, not that arty are super relevant on Paris, this is probably the worst arty map in the entire game for artillery with low shell trajectories. I'm actually excited about this matchmaking. I feel good about it. I think if I don't do 6k combined this game, then this is a bad game. So, yeah, pretty good game. I'm not sure if I'll edit in the post-game stats or not. We'll see. But yeah, this is the end of the replay. Let's go on to the next. Alright, second replay. I am in the Samua SM in Tier 10 matchmaking, so quite a bit different than the last matchmaking. When you're playing against two tiers higher, this whole thing about saving HP till the end of the game to trade it, even at the very end of the game, you have so little HP compared to the Tier 10s, and your gun is so garbage compared to the Tier 10s, that HP trading really is not as much of a thing. You have to conserve your HP even into the late game a lot of the time when you're playing against Tier 10s. Now this game is different from the other game. We actually have light tanks in this game, in this matchmaking, and there's no artillery. The artillery, as it turned out, didn't really factor into the last game because he never shot at me. But it's just something to note. Now, one thing I'm looking for when we have a light tank and they have a light tank is, first of all, getting damage on their light tank for free from right here. If their light tank decides to come through here. But if he's going up here, honestly, especially in an autoloader like a Samua where my shots really count and I can't be wasting shots. I can't be taking snapshots. I'm not too worried about the light tank. I'm just gonna try to get to this position as fast as possible. And that's especially considering that I am a heavy tank. I know I'm a fast, well, the Samua is not extremely fast. It's kind of a moderately fast heavy tank. Since I'm a moderately fast heavy tank, I need to be a little bit more cautious about this corner here. They have an STB. To be fair, they don't really have any medium tanks that can really bleed me from here very heavily besides the STB. Maybe the VZ if he's running turbo and if he just guns it right towards here, he could farm me. So I could technically stop here and try to get damage on their enemy TDs if our ELC even 90 spots them. And I could try to get damage on their ELC even 90, but the ELC even 90 is such a small target, it's hardly ever worth going for if you're trying to do damage. And I don't really expect our ELC even 90 to spot much here because look at their lineup. They have one TD and it's a T95. I'm not going to be able to pen him even if he does get spotted. So what's the point? Why would I ever stop here? And plus our ELC even 90 is not doing some crazy aggro run through here. He's just sitting here. So he's probably not going to spot anything anyway. So I decided to just go straight to my initial position where I want to do the majority of my damage. Now if you pay close attention, you'll notice I knock over the trees in almost exactly the same way as I did in the Leo. At like a 45-degree angle here. I don't even know if that makes any sense, but 45-degree angle to this wall. So this would be perpendicular. This is 45 degrees. And that's just to give me more space back here to stay unlit. If I knocked it over this way, it would be hard. I would have barely any space back here to maneuver behind 15 meters behind the tree. So that's why I knock it over in that manner. Now I'm just looking for early damage here. There's kind of a trade-off. If you start out behind the trees, 15 meters behind, you won't get spotted when you fire. But on the other hand, your visibility of the enemy tank is a little bit more tricky, and I'm a dog shit player, so I just want the extra visibility, and I'm pretty confident I'm not going to take damage anyways, because we have a 777 here who's just, he doesn't give a fuck. He's just pulling out sideways in the open. They're not going to shoot me, okay? I'm good enough to avoid the damage, so I just decide to sit in the open. Who cares? Now here, I see a Caliban. These shots are very questionable. Should I have held my shots? Honestly, I think it's debatable. I could have just held my shots, but a lot of their tanks have already been spotted here, and they're not in places where I can farm them. It's not like last game where my team pushed up super aggressively to these rubble piles and pushed the enemy tanks back here where I can easily farm them. The damage here is going to be a little bit more tricky. I'm going to have to work for it. So here I do decide to go for the shots on the Caliban. And I'm going for a Scapola because, for one, I don't know how to pen a Caliban turret. I'm a 5k, well, I'm a 4.5k 1-8 player until I play the 261 for like 60 games, and my recent 1-8 dropped to 4.5k 1-8. I still don't know how to pen a Caliban turret, dude. I'm just going for the Capola, man. Like, I got 260 penetration. I see that the reticle is green on this Capola. I'm just going for a Scapola, bro. I don't know if this is the best place to shoot. Probably. Not entirely sure. Try to shoot his turret there just to test whether it will pen. Doesn't pen. So I go for the Capola again. I missed my entire clip except for one shot. Pretty terrible first clip. But honestly, I don't know if I would have changed anything about this. If I shoot at this guy just a couple times and I have like 3 shells left in my mag, It's just kind of I'm just kind of left in an awkward situation, like, do I reload? Do I not reload? Nobody's poking this corner. So why should I hold my shots? So I just decided to unload my entire clip onto this guy and just hope and pray that I pen him. Speed this up a little bit while I reload. I'm just sitting here. To be honest, it's not like I'm a fucking demigod or something. It's not like I'm entirely focused on the game. I'm trying my best. I'm a damage whore. I love damage. So I do focus on this game way more than I should. I miss things in my Twitch chat when they pop up. But it's not like I'm playing everything about optimally or anything, but I'm trying my best, okay? So here you'll notice I pop into the bush to spot them. And not just to spot them, but to see where they are in relation to the objects around them. To see what kind of shots I have. It's not just about spotting. But here I know the general outline of the terrain. I know that there's a road here. I know that there's a column like right here. And so that just gives me a little bit better idea of where I can aim. And that's it's a very subtle tip, but you should know where you have shots and where you don't. And that sounds pretty obvious, and it also just sounds kind of weird, but you need to know how to feather your targets. Feather your targets means moving your reticle around to know where they're exposed and where they're not. So this IS-32, he's exposed like this. Can't shoot below here. That's obvious. Renegade, the only shot I have on him is his cupola. And part of pulling forward into the bush is just to get that visibility, to see where I can shoot and where I can't. But now I'm almost reloaded, I pull back. And that first shot on the Renegade cupola was unlucky, I missed. Second shot was good. Third shot looks good to me. It missed though, so what are you gonna do? Terrible shot. I'm bad. I am too far left. And there I just go for a desperation shot on his cupola because I didn't have any other shot. And I miss, unfortunately. Now if you look at the score, we are up HP. But if you look at our map control, this is still technically, I would consider a little bit of a stalemate. We are up guns as well. But I'm not too pressured to trade HP. And again, like I said, I'm a tier 8 in tier 10 matchmaking. Even if I wanted to trade HP, even at the very end of the game, it's not like I can trade HP versus a VZ. He does 1,000 damage to me, and that's 2/3 of my health. So I can't exactly just trade with him unless it's the very end of the game where he's the only remaining tank and I have full HP and I can just trade one clip for one clip. Again, I'm making sure not to go too wide here, right here, to get spotted from this corner, because this corner has a line of sight right here that avoids this tree. But at the same time, you can shoot back at this corner, so keep that in mind. And now things are getting a little bit more interesting because we have a couple tanks playing the corner who weren't playing there initially. An email 1 and a T95, and so I'm looking for potential damage on them. This is kind of a stalemate game. These aren't the easiest tanks to pen necessarily, but I'm just hoping they'll make a mistake and I can get some free damage. T95, very hard to pen, but what are you gonna do? Here, I try to go for a track shot immediately. I miss. Don't know if it was aimed bad or not, but I miss. But he's at a perfect angle where I can track him and he'd be locked in place unless he uses a repair kit. I don't think he has HP. I'm not actually sure because I don't know the base HP of the TNH. When I say he has HP, I mean hardening. Hardening increases the durability of your tracks, and if you have hardening, you're generally not able to one-shot the enemy's tracks and immobilize them unless you have very high alpha damage. The Samua doesn't have high alpha damage, so try to go for a second track shot, but I mostly just try to get the pen. Doesn't work out, but that's okay because this Tornvong exposes himself. And like I said, you can shoot back at this corner, and there's actually trees in the way. This is actually something I don't know. Is this tree knocked over in order to make this line of sight covered? I'm actually not sure. This tree looks sideways, but I'm not sure if this is usually obstructed or not. I'm actually not sure about that. Let me know in the comments if you know. Here I'm aiming for his lower plate. I go for a blind shot. I have no idea if that hit or not. If I decide to include the post-game stats into these replays, then you'll see. But I might be just too lazy to include that. And here I'm on reload, which is kind of unfortunate because it looks like they might be over poking this corner a little bit or making some mistakes. And this is something I want to point out. Even if your team doesn't go aggressive to this rubble pile, there are still very often tanks who play this corner who overpoke and make mistakes, and you can get free damage on them. Your team doesn't have to be playing aggressive in order for you to get damage right here. This is just very often a place where enemy tanks go where they think they'll get some kind of crossfire, or not crossfire, some kind of fire onto this corner, or some kind of fire across here onto these tanks. And you know what? They can do that, but if you're playing this position, you can counter them. And so that's why I think that this position is a very safe opener. Unless you're playing something like a 279E or an E100, which has a lot of armor and which really, especially in top tier matchmaking, should get stuck in, where you want to just push right in, or you want to play here, shoot these tanks that are playing the hull down, and then maybe later on, if you see that you're not getting overmatched super heavily, you can push in and play this corner. Well, if you're in that situation, then sure, do that. But if you're not, this is a much safer option, and it will still generally result in a lot of good initial damage. Here you see this Emo 2, he's playing the corner. He has no idea what he's doing, to be honest. And I almost get some shots on him. Unfortunately, I reload a little bit too late. Here, notice where I aimed. I aimed for his backside because I wanted a fire. There are two ways to get fires in this game. There are fuel tank fires and there are engine fires. Engine fires, if you hit the hitbox of an engine, you generally have a 15 to 20% chance of catching an enemy tank on fire if you hit the engine hitbox. And that's basically regardless of the amount of module damage you do to the engine. The second way to catch an enemy tank on fire is to destroy their fuel tanks, and that one's a little bit more tricky. If you hit their fuel tanks, you can damage their fuel tanks, and you can destroy their fuel tanks. If you just damage their fuel tanks, all that does is make them a little bit more prone to fire, because if you damage their fuel tanks again and end up destroying their fuel tanks, then they'll be caught on fire. But if you only damage their fuel tanks, nothing actually happens. And so in a tank that has like 320 alpha like this, or not 320, 300 alpha like this, you're not gonna one-shot their fuel tanks, so you'll have to shoot them in the fuel tanks twice and get a lucky a lucky series of shots on their fuel tanks in order to catch them fire. But if you hit their engine, you get a straight up chance to catch them on fire. So there I hit his engine and his fuel tanks, or at least I hit the hitbox of them. But the engine only has a 15% chance or around there to catch on fire. I'm not sure exactly what it is for the IS-32. The fuel tanks have around, and I'm not sure what it is for the IS-32, around a 37.5% chance to damage their fuel tanks. Now, if you damage their fuel tanks twice, like in a tank that has 300 alpha, then you'll catch them on fire, which is around a 1 in 9 chance. But since I only shot him once, at most, all I could do is damage his fuel tank. So the only thing I'm going for there is an engine fire, not a fuel tank fire. Excuse me. But I thought it was worth going for, because there I'm only going to get one shot into this guy before he goes into the corner, before he goes around the corner. So why would I not aim for a fire? If I aim for his ammo rack, unless he's already ammo racked, all I'm going to do is damage his ammo rack. I'm not going to fully explode him with one shot, because this gun has 300 alpha, and therefore it doesn't have enough module damage to one hit ammo rack an IS-32 with a single shot. Whereas if I hit his engine, even if I just damage his engine and don't destroy his engine, there is always a % chance that I will catch him on fire. So in low alpha tanks with poor module damage, it is almost always better to go for fires, engine fires, than it is to go for ammo racks. And that's partially because ammo racks have a lower % chance to be damaged, but secondly because engine fires, you don't need to fully destroy an engine to catch an enemy tank on fire. All you have to do is hit the engine hitbox and damage the engine. And since I was only going to get one shot anyways, I might as well go for that engine fire. I know that's like a very, very long explanation for something that's extremely mundane and probably not going to end up giving you a fire in the first place, but it's something that you should know about, because if you get a free shot on an enemy's rear, or in the case of rear mounted turrets, their front, and you're only going to get one shot in, it's usually best to just go for their engine and try to get a fire rather than going for the ammo rack. Unless it's a tank that's particularly ammo rack prone, like the 279E. Now here the game is evened up a little bit, but if you look at the map control, well, it's honestly not super clear who's going to win the game, because they have a lot of tanks here and our team kind of overcommitted down here in the low ground. But I'm feeling pretty confident still. Like, if they start winning, I have plenty of time to get distance and start running away. So I'm still just playing it patient, looking for free damage. And again, I'm tier 8, so free damage is the key. I can't trade with enemy tanks. My gun just isn't good enough to compete with tier 9 or tier 10 guns. Here, absolute garbage shot. I'm terrible. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. There, I go for another engine shot. I was actually kind of going for a track and an engine shot, but didn't get either. Another thing I should mention, by the way, you should have this on. Let's see where it is. Battle events, battle performance, critical damage. Turn this on, please. It's a pretty advanced tip, but if you turn this on, it will tell you when you get a critical hit on an enemy tank. And so if you're aiming for someone's engine, you shoot it and you get a notification that you critically damaged an enemy tank's module. If you're aiming for the engine, that probably means you either damage their engine, or if the fuel tank is in the same place, which it usually is, you damage their fuel tank. Here though, no critical hits, as you can see in my log. So I didn't get an engine damage there or a fuel tank damage. Which, you know what, that's fine. When I'm going for those shots, it's not as if I'm expecting to get them, it's just something that would be nice to happen if it just so happens to occur. And again, I'm double bush here. These guys, most random players, they're completely oblivious. They have no idea what's happening. And so they still don't realize that I'm just sitting here. And so I get a lot of free damage. That was not the best shot, but it probably should have killed that guy, to be honest. I have one shot left. Caliban drives to the open. Still doesn't realize I'm here. No idea how, but you know, that's just the nature of random battles. And I get a free shot in. Now, one thing to note here, this is kind of more of an advanced tip, but if you're playing behind these bushes, there are two ways you can play it. You can pull forward with your front facing forward, spot them, pull back, and shoot them. Or you can be facing this direction, kind of like this. You drive forward and you get within 15 meters of the tree. You spot them. You pull back a little bit until you're 15 meters behind the tree, so it becomes oblique. I don't know if that's the right word. Opaque. That's the right word. And you shoot them. Now, there are advantages to each. In this situation, I'm just pulling forward, shooting them, or pulling forward, spotting them, pulling back, and shooting them, just straight back and forth. But one disadvantage to doing this is, since I'm facing this direction, if the enemy is smart, I shoot them, they can blind fire me back, and I can't avoid them. If I'm turned this direction, what I can do is poke in the bush, pull back a little bit, shoot behind the bush, hit them. I see that they start to aim at me, and what I do is I just back up, and then they blind fire me and they miss. So that's one disadvantage to doing it like this. I'm not saying you should never do it like this. I'm doing it right now, so obviously I think that it's viable in many situations, but it's just something to keep in mind. Right now, if you look at the map, by the way, we do have a couple teammates who are playing on this corner who are kind of covering me. This angle here has a shot down through under this bridge onto these guys, but these guys are tier 10s. This guy's a tier 8. It's not great. The HP is even. This is still kind of a stalemate game. But if the enemies were to start making pressure here, especially this VZ who has lots of HP, I have enough clip potential where I could potentially just pull up to this corner and kill him. But I always have the option of trying to run. So I can run this direction or this direction, and I can get back here, or even all the way back here around this corner here. Disadvantage of going around this corner is that this corner here has shots on you. Disadvantage of going around this corner is that, still, I guess, this corner has shots on you. I guess it's the same disadvantage, but just something to keep in mind. But in general, it's not too hard to fall back from this location, which is one of the reasons why it's a good position. It's not too invested. You can always fall back from it if you're losing. And as you can see, that's exactly what happened. The enemy tried to make pressure. Our Caliban, actually from here, which I did not even notice he was there, got a side shot and just killed their VZ. So that's kind of pretty epic. The T95 here. Look at him. He's kind of pre-aimed at me a little bit, so I'm thinking twice before I fire at him. First of all, I can barely pen him. Second of all, if I fire and hit him, even if I'm not spotted, he could very easily blind fire me. Because he doesn't have any distractions here. I don't have any teammates down here, or any teammates like right here, or even over here to distract him. So if I shoot him, there's a good chance he'll blind fire me. Now, if you pay attention closely, you'll notice that I aimed for the top of his hull, not his tracks, and that's because it's just a guaranteed pen. And since he's a one-shot, I don't care about tracking, I don't care about anything else, I just want to get the penning shot and kill him and finish him off. So now that their VZ died, and their heavy tanks bled and their T95 bled, we're up 3,000, so I'm not too worried about running right now or anything. I'm still just looking for damage, and now we're up 3.5k, so now I see that we're clearly in the lead. This isn't a guaranteed win by any means, but I'm thinking about playing a little bit more aggressive, and so that's what I'm doing here. Get a few cheeky shots into this IS-32, one of them bounces. That's okay though, you know, it wasn't a guaranteed shot or anything. I still don't want to trade with him because I don't have guaranteed pens on him, and I don't want to take like 680 damage or 640 damage, whatever it is. But now that I'm unlit, I poke again and I look for free shots on him, and he over angles very much so. And I don't know if I meant to go for a track shot here, but I get a track shot, and I think I just mistimed that slightly, so I miss, unfortunately. And he hits me, but he only hits me once. He didn't have time to hold down left click and hit me with 2 shots, so that's basically the extent of how much HP trading I can do in this kind of matchmaking. It's very hard to trade HP when you're 2 tiers lower than the highest tier in your matchmaking. Here though, we are up 5,000. Like, look at the HP difference, 8,000 to 3,000. Right now, I just want to get one final clip. So I shoot the IS-32. That's the easiest shot I have. Now here, this is arguably a mistake. This Caliban shot me once. He has AP loaded. I'm a one-shot now. What should I do right here? Should I just take the guaranteed damage on this guy and assume the Caliban will miss, or should I shoot the Caliban? The Caliban, as far as I know, shooting his turret right here and right here is around a 50-50 pen. Shooting his cupola is 100%, but that's not a guaranteed hit. This is guaranteed damage. I just go for the easier option. I don't know if this is the best play or not, to be honest. You can argue in the comments about whether it is or not, but I take the risk there, and I kill the IS-32 and ignore the Caliban. Now, I want to just help you realize that I would never, ever take that risk at the start of a game. The only reason why I took that risk right here is because the game is basically already over. If I die right here, yes, it's not great, But like, how much potential damage do I actually miss out on if I die to the Caliban? Like 1,000, 1,200 at most, but realistically, probably like 600 damage. Because I'd have to fully reload right now. So keep that in mind. Your level of risk depends on your game situation, and that is a very important aspect of situational awareness. Now here I see the Caliban's gonna yellow me. I'm still well into my reload. Just watch how I play this, to be honest. I'm paying attention to what he does and I'm reacting in turn. I know that we're about the same speed. So I try to bait him. I start going forward. I see that he pulls backwards, so I pull back this way to avoid him. I see he starts going forward, so I start going forward. I should die here. I really should. But I don't. I just don't die here. My teammate saves me. But again, I'm only taking this risk because the game is over. If I have any chance of getting any more damage this game, it's on the Manticore. And so I'm risking dying to the Caliban in order to get damage on the Manticore. I would never do that early game. I'm only doing that because this game is already over. This is my last chance for damage. I'm gonna take a risk and hope that I survive so that I can get some extra damage. Here I should have stopped and started aiming a little bit sooner. So that's a slight mistake. Go for the track there because, you know, why not? And I finish him off, and I do 6,000 damage in tier 10 matchmaking. Very nice. Again, I know this replay analysis is very long. It's way longer than the replay, but I want to break these down as much as possible, and I hope you get as much possible use out of these replays as you can get. Let's move on to the last replay. I have just one more quick thing to show you about this side of Paris and how to play it using this position right here. Okay, for this third replay, I'm not gonna go over all the matchmaking and whatnot. I just want to show you a different angle, the fourth angle that you can hit from this location. Don't remember if you know if you remember the first three that I taught you, but I just want to show you this third angle real quick. Again, notice how I pushed on the trees, exact same way that I did in the other two replays. This is just something I do unconsciously. I never even realized that I did it this way until I rewatched these replays, and then I realized why I did it. It's really interesting. After you play tens of thousands of battles of World of Tanks, sometimes you just do things and you don't know why, but when you analyze them later, you realize why. Again, I poke wide, but normally you'd get spotted from this location, but again, something I taught in the last replay, or I mean on the third episode, the spotting locations, or the spotting ports of your tank are on your cupola and on the face of your gun. The 60 TP, his turret is around the corner, so he doesn't spot me, even though his hull is around the corner. That's just something real quick, again to emphasize. So I know that I'm safe here, even though there's no foliage between me and him. I know that I'm not going to be spotted because he is not poking out his viewports. I might have to speed this up a little bit. Here it is, right here. This is the position, or I guess the angle that I wanted to show you. So when you're playing this position here, and you notice an enemy aggresses to this corner right here, this corner right where the 26AV4 is playing. I can't really third person to show you exactly where it is, but it's in front of this rubble pile right here. You can go to this corner right here, and if you're in a tank with enough gun depression, which you don't need too much gun depression to do, probably 6 or 7 degrees, you can find a shot on them. Let me go back a little bit to show this better. So I noticed that this 26AV4 is on this corner, and I know about this angle, so this is why I go here. I move out. I look for the best shots. I should not have fired that first shot. What I should have done, so I can pen him roughly in this area here. I can't pen this here, this side angle here. I can only pen this angle here. What I should have done is backed up a little bit before I fired that first shell on him, like I do here. I back up a little bit, and I have a little bit better shot on this area here. And then I pen him. And that's all I really wanted to show from this replay. This angle here, it's a good thing to know about when you're playing on this side. Basically this game ends in a loss where I do like 3k damage. It's pretty terrible. I'm not gonna bother analyzing this because this video is already very long, and I feel like it's already packed with way too much information. So I think that's all I'm gonna include. So thanks for watching. As for when the next episode will show up and what it will be about, honestly, I don't know, okay? I'm pretty confident the next episode will be up in the next probably 5 days or so, but next Thursday I have 3 midterms and I'm already late on a paper, so don't expect too much content in the next 5 days, but maybe 1 video, okay? But anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I know it was a very long video, but that's what this channel is all about. It's about learning, okay? It might not be the most entertaining thing to sit through 40 or 50 minutes of 3 replays, but if you want to get better at World of Tanks, this is a kind of thing that I would recommend to do, is to watch through your own replays or replays of good players and just see what they do, where they go in the beginning, how they adapt to different situations, when they fire and what they fire at, etc. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.